Okay, welcome back to another another tutorial from the Complete Website Builder, and where we show you how to use Mobirise specifically to create a beautiful website for your small company or your small organization. Now today I'm going to cover kind of a lengthy topic, but I hope to be able to hit all of the things that are necessary for you to be able to do what you need to do for your company, and that is in animations. So animations are kind of a big deal in web design right now. They're relatively new, and Mobirise, being kind of a forward-thinking program, which is really good, has included several animations into especially the new Mobirise 3 theme. All of these, though, aren't to everyone's liking. You can see here, I'm part of a, I don't know if you've seen this forum or not, but it's called mobirise.freeforums.net. And if you are looking for more of a community around Mobirise than just what's on the Mobirise.com website, then you can go to this free forum, sign up, and there's lots of activity here, people asking questions, people showing their stuff. So it's a real community, and I've engaged in some of the help questions that people have about Mobirise, and this is one of them that was received. It was originally, you know, how do I make this one particular element not animate in Mobirise 3? And then, you know, he has a question about the CSS and what's controlling the animations on the page. And then this is really important. Yeah, I don't know any serious company that wants every single object on a page to animate. Okay, and what he's talking about is this. So I have just a basic Mobirise 3 theme here, and you'll see that every single object animates individually as you scroll down the page. Most people don't want that. Most people want the page to either load straight up, or they want to be able to animate specific elements whenever they're scrolling down the page. So maybe they want this whole intro instead of every individual element, because you see how each individual element comes in on its own. Maybe you just want the whole thing to come in on its own. Now in version 2, this is really easy, and I'll show it to you in a little bit. It was really easy to control animations because it was done at the HTML level, and all you had to do was add a class, change the class, and then you change the animation. So that was a lot easier. But in version 3, they've taken a more complex approach, and they are actually adding these animations through JavaScript, and they're adding the animations to every single major element. So I'm going to show you a few things. I'm going to show you how to stop the animations. I'm going to show you how to change all of the animations. So instead of right now it's fade in and up, so you can see how it fades in and up. I can show you how to change those animations to something different so that every element on the page animates differently, but it still animates everything. So I'll show you that. I'll show you how to eliminate all the animations so nothing animates automatically. And then I'll also show you how to pick and choose different elements on the screen to animate automatically. And then last, I'll show you how to, I don't know how to say it, I'll show you how to add a class to the JavaScript that allows you, a CSS class that allows you to animate only certain things. So you'll be able to control in the HTML what elements on the page that you want to use this particular animation. So it's and then maybe I'll show you how to just animate everything individually. I haven't tried that, but I'm willing to jump into it if you are. So that way you could put in different animations on different elements. But most of the time we're going to be working with the same animation on different elements. But I'll show you how to do multiple animation styles on different elements. Okay. Alright, so I gave an answer The animations are controlled by something called Animate.css, which is a third-party add-on. And so to get rid of all the animations, and you don't even want access to Animate.css, then all you have to do is go to this folder. So this is just a Mobirise. This is this theme, this web page here that I showed you. This is the file structure for that. You can see there's an index and the project, and then all of the asset files. So this is what you're normally going to look at inside of your folder, your browser. And then you look at Animate.css. If you delete this entire folder and you just get rid of it, that will actually get rid of all of the animations. So if I delete that folder and then I go back, then there won't be anything for Mobirise to reference. It will have taken out all of the CSS that causes the animations. But at this point, you won't be able to change those animations like I'm about to show you, because maybe you do want animations on the different elements, or you want to change multiple elements to be able to have animations automatically. And so if you want animations like that, and you want to tap into the power of the Animate.css, then don't delete the folder. So so now I need to, in order to get that back, I need to republish this site. Okay, now our animations are back, you can see. And if we look in our folder structure, it creates Animate.css all by itself. Now inside of here, you can see that this is the minified version, so it's not going to be a matter of, oh, well, I'll just go in and make some changes to a few different things. So you would need to actually download the Animate.css source file in order to make any changes to this particular plugin. Okay, so that controls everything. And then what's next? Let me show you Animate.css. So if you go to, this is created by a guy, his name is Daniel Eden, and you can find, if you just search for Animate.css, it'll bring up this page first. Now what it does, he has created a bunch of CSS animations for you to, all you have to do is put these in as class names onto any element where Animate.css is added to the web page, and it will actually put that animation on the element. So if you want it to bounce in or to bounce out, there are several different animations. You can see he's created several different ones. So you can play around with these, and it'll do this automatically when you just change it like this. Okay, so slide in, slide out and up. And there are many different reasons why you might choose some of these animations over another, but that's just personal preference or what you're using for your project. And so this is Animate.css. This is the part that's included here in this folder. And this is what's being tapped into inside of Mobirise. Now there's none of these classes here, and in fact if you try to add just the class right here, I've tried that before and it doesn't do anything. So when I come back to my home page, it should animate this differently, but it's not. See, it's a full screen intro, and the way that you're supposed to add this in normally is to say animated and then whatever the name is of the new animation. But when I do that, it still fades in and up. Okay, so everything's being overridden by the JavaScript at this point. So what we need to do is, if we want to eliminate the animations completely, but we still want to have access to them, then we need to go into the JavaScript file And after a little bit of hunting and looking around, I realized that it's in the theme, and it's under JavaScript. And then you look in the script file, script.js, it'll look like this. And I went down to line 370, about 370, so you can see over here. I'm using the Atom editor, ATOM. It's a free editor from GitHub, and it's really great. So I went down to here. So line 374, and you can see here that this is if the HTML has the class of isBuilder, then run this function. And if it's mobile, then don't run the function. So this determines the animation while you're scrolling. Okay, so you remember each time that you're scrolling, the animation happens, right? You can see it as you scroll down. So this actually controls all of that. Now what's going on here? So if it's mobile, you don't do anything else. If it's not mobile, then run all this animation stuff. And what they're doing here is they are all of these elements here are what are being automatically animated on the page. So paragraphs, all headings, links, buttons, anything with the class of small or image, I mean not a class but a tag, and then all of these things with these classes here. So input groups, icon boxes, button social, you'll recognize some of these classes as Mobirise, MBR, right? And then what it's doing is it's adding a class of hidden, but it's also adding a class of animated. Remember I told you the way that you kick off the animations is to add the class animated first, and then whatever the name of the animation you want to do. So down here, as you're scrolling down, then they remove the class hidden so that it's shown, and then they add the class that's the second class. Okay, so here they're using fade in up for everything. And then they run it one time, and then when it's ended, when it finishes, then they remove the class of animated, and then whatever animation style that they want to use, fade in up or slide in or whatever it is, they remove both of those classes so that when you scroll back up, so once it's happened one time and I scroll back up, nothing fades a second time. You see that? It's all faded one time. So everything gets one chance to fade into the page, and then once it's loaded and you scroll back down, it's taken off those classes so it doesn't continue to fade in and out. Okay, so that's what's happening here. And I have gone through and I've figured out that I'm not a big fan of going through and deleting people's code, so I would rather comment it out. And when you comment something out in HTML or CSS or in JavaScript, then that means that when the browser gets there to read that text or read that code, it skips over it. It doesn't do anything with it. It doesn't take up space. It doesn't get rendered to the page. It doesn't happen. So if you want to delete something off of the page, unless you know what you're doing and you know what you want to delete, I would just comment it out. And the way you do that in a lot of programs, for a PC at least, is control and /. So it'll be the question mark for most keyboards. And what that does is it comments it out. You can see it's grayed out here. And now whenever I save it and I go back and refresh, then none of the animations happen. Okay, so this is an idea. Well, some of the animations happen. This still happens. And if you watch up here, when I scroll down, the animations for the scroll bar happens. So I don't want you to just it's not necessary to rip out all of this JavaScript, because some of this is controlling, like here, it's controlling the nav bar, and it's allowing you to do different things with the navigation bar. Even though some of these things are actually controlling animated elements, some of these things here are controlling the navigation bar. So unless you want to stop all animations on every page, just comment out this section. So it's line 383 to line 385, right? So that stops all the animations, and it allows you to go back in and animate whatever you want to animate. So let's go back to our index page, and now let's try to animate. Remember, we tried this before. So we type in animated, and let's just do bounce because it's easy to remember. And then when we save it and we refresh our page, this is the part here that should be different, and it should be animated. And you can see that it's the bounce animation. Okay, maybe you missed that. So let's do slide in right, which will slide the text in from the right side of the page. So it should come this way. Okay, now you can see that we've changed the animation only on this one particular element. Right? Let's say we wanted to do, like we had talked about before, instead of each individual element being animated, we want to animate the entire div. So let me show you that part. So we want to animate all of this text and everything coming in. So let's just do something really pronounced. We'll say animated, slide in right. We'll save it and refresh. And so now the entire div, the entire section here, is going to animate in. But nothing else animates on the page because we turned off the animations as automatic. Okay, so it's now in your hands where you can take control. You can take full control of the website at this point. I've not tried to go back into Mobirise and do this inside of the HTML code editor extension. The one thing I could think to do would be to add your animated classes, since nothing happens to them whenever you add them in. If you don't turn off the JavaScript, then I would just add them in wherever you want them to be on the page, and then go and turn off the JavaScript inside of a text editor, because you don't get access to that inside of Mobirise itself. And then once you turn that off, then you have all your classes already put into the different parts of your page, and then it should animate the way that you want it to. That might be a way that I would do that. It's something you ought to figure out. If not, you can just go straight to a text editor like this after you've built your website, and then you can add those animations in. And remember that these animations are going to happen as the user scrolls down the page, right? So we haven't done anything to control whether the animations happen again. So once the page is loaded, because it's determining where I am on the page, it's going to come in automatically up here. But if I scroll down and it was on this part, then it would slide in whenever I scroll down to a certain part of the page, and then it would only happen one time. So that's a little bit more advanced JavaScript to be able to go in and change and make it so that when you scroll back up, then that event happens again when you scroll down the page. And you'd have to look something like that up. I'm not going to cover that in this particular video. Okay, so we have turned off all of the animations, we have deleted all the animations, and we have added our own animations and classes to the different parts. Alright, so let's go back to the JavaScript, and let's uncomment this. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy it. I'm going to come down a little bit and I'm going to paste it right here. So we're going to have this instance 2 times. So I'm going to comment out the first part. So I'm leaving all of the original code here, And now I have this copy that I can work with. And once this is commented out, it doesn't get run, but this will get run. Okay. So what I want to do is, if we test it out, just to make sure everything is connected back up and working. Okay, so everything is fade in and up, just like it was whenever we first downloaded the project. So everything is hooked up and working fine. Now right now this is animating every single thing on the page, from here to here. All of these different elements and classes are being they're being added in and animated. So let's say we just wanted only our headings and our paragraphs to be animated. We would just take all of this and simply delete it. Make sure that the single quotes are around it like this, and then we'll save it. And then when we come in, there were several elements like these buttons that were animated before that should be not animated this time. Okay, you see the buttons didn't, but this animates, right? You see that? As I scroll down, okay, this animates, but these two elements do not animate. Okay, you get some animation here, but not in the icons. Okay, and these input fields and things no longer animate, only the text. Okay, so we have changed per the elements of the page. Now, what if we wanted to just create one single class that we could add into the HTML, where we could just add the class and it would decide to animate only that class. So let's create one called .is animated. We only need that part. So let me save that, and then we'll go back to the HTML. And let's say we only want this we want this full div with the whole full screen intro and all that to animate again. We would add the class is dash animated, and we would save. And now you'll see that only only this div right here is going to animate, and it'll do the fade in and up because that's the animation that we have set inside the JavaScript. So nothing else is animated, only whatever we decide. So if we go through, and what else could we animate? Let's do this part here where it says intro to YouTube. So this is not the YouTube video, this is the part that's on the right hand side. And so we'll add our is animated class, and then let's do only one of these blocks. Sorry, it's right here. These are the cards with the icon and the text, the 3 cross cards. So that will make the second one animated. And then one more thing. Let's make the entire footer. How about that? Make the entire footer animated. And that will make sure that it all comes in all together as opposed to each of the different parts. Okay, so I'm going to save that, and we're going to see how our specific animations are, how they've gone. So we have this whole thing here. The next one should be on the right hand side, and that all gets animated. We missed this one, but that whole middle section got, and then you could see the footer just came all in by itself. Okay, so go through that again. So there we have that whole section, and then the footer. And the footer comes all in by itself. So we've effectively taken in our JavaScript, and we've taken the animation off of all of the elements, and we put it only on this class that we've determined to be an animated class. So this thing is animated, and then you can go back into your HTML wherever you want to go and you can just add that is animated, or whatever your class is. You can add that to the different parts of the sections. Okay. Now let's just leave that actually. Now I'll show you, what if you don't want all of your animations to be fade in and up? Okay, that's a good question. And so let's go and look at the JavaScript again. Now that is being controlled in this section here, so from lines 414 down to 419. And what's happening here is that any element that has the class hidden is going to have that removed when you scroll down to a certain position on the page. So it's going to remove hidden. It's going to add the class fade in up. It's already been animated, has already been added, right? So then they just add in whatever the animation style they want. And it's going to do it one time, and then once that animation comes to an end, then after that it's going to look at the element. It's going to remove the classes animated and fade in up, or whatever you've chosen here. So this one here needs to match with this one here because you're adding the class on the element here, and then here you're removing it, you're taking it off, so that the animation doesn't keep happening and firing over and over. So let's say we want this to be bounce. Then we would put that here and say bounce. So these two things match up. So as we scroll down the page, it's going to add the class bounce to whatever is here. Okay, so they're a little bit far apart from each other and kind of disjointed from the naked eye, but those two things are connected. And then after that animation runs one time, it's going to remove that class bounce. Okay. So what should happen is all of our elements that we put with is animated, they should actually run the bounce animation. Okay, so let's save that, and we'll go back to reload our page, and now we have a bounce here. Okay, so the next one should be down here on the right. It bounces, this bounced, and then our footer should bounce. Okay, so that is not the animation that I would use, but I just wanted to show something very pronounced that you would be able to put in there. And again, if you wanted specific elements to bounce, you would, like all of your headings, then you would save that, and then when we go back in and we refresh the page, then all of our headings should bounce. You see that? Okay. So you can see where all of your heading tags are, and they've all bounced. So there are several different ways that you could go about doing this, and you know, only touching a little bit of the code, you can actually create some pretty powerful animations. So if you only want to animate specific things on specific pages, then I would go through and I would change this to like we did before with the is animated class, and that way it would take the animation, and then you can decide what to do and where to do it and how to do it. If you want to have different animations for different elements, then you're going to need to leave this commented out. Don't do any of this part. Just leave all of this commented out, and then you'll have to go on to each individual element inside of your HTML, and then you'll have to add, remember, the class of animated, and then whatever the animation name that you want to put on it here. So these two things have to go together. They're set, and you can see that and read more about it here at Animate.css, which you can, if you view the project on GitHub. Then you can read about how it works. Here's a little quick basic usage for it. These things have been done for you, so this is already in the head. Mobirise does that automatically. And it says add the class animated to the element you want to animate. And it says you may also want to use the class infinite for an infinite loop. So instead of only animating one time, like it would just keep bouncing, even though it's been running one time. And then finally you can add the different classes, and you can find out what those classes are and how to do them here. And so if this is the page we were on before, and then this is a full example of what it would look like inside your HTML, and some other use cases for some different things as well, if you combine it with jQuery or your own CSS and things like that. So it's really powerful to be able to add animations to your web page, because one thing it does is draw visitors who are on your web page to specific elements of the page, and helps them to see it so that they don't just move through your page without seeing the thing that you really want them to see. It can also just add a little bit of liveliness, or what Google calls delight, for the visitors. Some parts of web pages are kind of boring, and so if you can create a little bit of delight in those things, it can set your company off as a little bit different or fun or interesting. But remember that animation can also be distracting. It should always be used. Movement on the page, because everything is so static, should always be used to draw the visitor to it, because that's what will happen. They'll see a bunch of stuff not moving, and then they'll see things moving, and their eye is going to move right to that. So I encourage you to be thoughtful about the way that you animate web pages. The subtlety of the fade in and up is it gives it a certain elegance to the Mobirise website. But again, just like the user who was here, I don't know anybody who wants every single object on every single page to animate this way. So this is why I'm showing you how to take control of the animations in the Mobirise theme. Now, I told you I would show you Mobirise. Let's see. So this one is using the old. It's using the old theme. So before that was Mobirise 3, and this is the Mobirise original default theme. Okay. So let's see if it's going to let me do it. Okay. So this is the original Mobirise default theme. You recognize the header and some different styles here, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look at the code. Now I have the Mobirise code editor here, but you could also do this by exporting the website and then going into it with the code editor, either way. So what I can do is I can go in and I can control, in this theme I can control everything all together, because what happens is the animations are controlled theme to theme. You're not stuck if you use a different theme than the Mobirise 3 theme. Okay, so, but I would assume at this point they're going to move forward using adding animations into new themes through JavaScript, unless someone makes a big stink and they make that change. So let's see. Let's animate these elements here. So that starts here with here, and remember we add our animated, and then bounce, and let's just make sure by previewing it in the browser, let's just make sure that that actually happens. Let's see. Okay, so that happens not on scroll, but it happens just automatically on the page. You see that, how that happened? Okay, so the this one here happens on load, so the elements come up like that. And if you wanted to make sure that the things are being animated as people scroll into them, that again, that's a JavaScript lesson that I'm not prepared to give here for this particular video or session. But it's something that you can look up because it has to do with scrolling and the window position. And when that window position hits a certain number, then it triggers the animation, which is how that happens. So right now, we just have that. We have that bounce that just happens, and it was talking about adding the word infinite. So if we do that, it won't just animate one time, it's actually going to animate over and over and over again. So let's check it out and see how that's working. Okay, so it's just running the bounce animation over and over and over again. Again, another really good way to draw attention, right? It's easy on this page with a lot of static elements. That's what you're going to look at and see. But this is something that, again, this is like the old flashing stuff on a website that happened back in the 90s, where people would flash things or change the colors or whatever in order to get your attention. But over time, that became a very annoying type of thing for users. So you have to think about the user. You also have to think about your own, I guess, your own motives or goals for the website itself. I'm going to unlock this because this already has an animation on it. So I'm looking for animated, and I see it right here. So this is the hero, which is this big section here, and then it says animated, fade in, up. So if you just wanted to change those animated classes, so we could do slide in right and do OK. And then whenever we look at it here, it's going to slide that element in from the right. Okay, you see how that works. So it's kind of a building. So it comes in and then these come up. And building your animations like that with different things that are complementary to one another, it's kind of like building blocks coming in and they're stacking, and it creates more visual interest and creates something a little bit better than just this bouncing over and over, right? So that is how you would use animations in the older parts of Mobirise. They're right inside of the code editor. They're already built into the HTML. So if you want to make those changes for the Mobirise 2 theme, then you'll just have to go in and make those changes right inside the code, either here inside Mobirise, or you can publish the site and then go back into a text editor just like we did here and make those changes in the HTML. Alright, that's a lot to think about with Mobirise animations. So if you have any questions or something wasn't very clear or something is not working well, then please leave a comment down in the comments below. You can also send me a message on Twitter. My Twitter handle is @Brian, B-R-I-A-N, and Haferkamp, my last name, H-A-F-E-R-K-A-M-P. You can also email me at brian@highwaywebconsulting.com. And I look forward to your thoughts on the video. I look forward to any comments or questions that you have about the animations. And thank you for everyone who has subscribed. If you want to get more videos on Mobirise development or web development using Mobirise, then please subscribe to this channel as I'm continuing to publish new content and to engage with some of the questions and comments that you have. And for the ones that I'm getting a lot of, I typically will make a video for that so that others can be able to see how to do that and how to put those things in their page or on their website. But thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.